All right, good morning to everyone. It's March and we are about to change time this weekend with everyone. We're going to be springing forward. So we have two wonderful guests again this morning, as we always do. I am going to go ahead and read just a little bit for those who are new to us this year or this month. So, if it's your first time joining us, we want to welcome you. We are the AgriSafe Network. We are a national agriculture health and safety nonprofit, and our goal, our mission is to protect the people who feed the world. There we go. So, we have created an AgriStress helpline. It's a 24/7 crisis line, and right now we do have it available in 11 states. We do have resources that are available by call or text. And if you would like to stay engaged with AgriSafe, we would love for you to stay in touch or even get involved. You can scan this QR code that we have here on the screen, and it can take you to our site, and you can see the plethora of resources that we do have available for everyone. So, who we're going to have this morning? So, Miss Lucia is unable to make it this morning. She had something come up. So, Dr. Massie is going to go ahead and be our sole presenter for their topic. And then everybody knows Dr. Haskins, Dr. Tara. So, she is going to be filling us in on the AgriStress provider directory. So, I'm going to stop sharing so that Miss Merle can go ahead and share her screen. And whenever you're ready, Merle, we'll go ahead and let you get away.
Thanks. Thanks so much very much. I've been just so pleased to be part of this particular network and drop in as many times as I can. And a little bit about the organization that I represent. So the Do More Agriculture Foundation is a Canadian charity. We are the first such charity in Canada dedicated to mental health and agriculture. I believe, I'm not 100% certain, but I believe we might even be the first such charity in the world. So we're the national voice and champion for mental health in Canadian agriculture, created in 2017. We gained our national charitable status in 2019. About me, so I am Merle Massie, so I'm the executive director. I'm also a farmer. So my husband and I farm in west central Saskatchewan, which if you go to Montana and go north, that's where you'll find us. So just in case you're wondering on a map, still lots of snow where we are. Still ground is still very frozen. We are about 6 weeks to 8 weeks out from seeding, just so you know. We usually start seeding at the beginning of May. We're a broadacre grain farm. We have wheat, canola, and lentils is our main rotation, although we always have a few other things on the go, and calving started this week. So that's what's happening there. For those of you on this call, you might be interested to know that prior to my work here at the Do More Agriculture Foundation, I came on board about 14, 15 months ago. I was with the Canadian Centre for Rural and Agricultural Health at the University of Saskatchewan in Saskatoon in Canada. And the Canadian Centre for Rural and Ag Health is very, very similar and works. You'll probably have seen a lot of the research work that comes out of that center around farm health, farm safety, and how to be safe on farms, including a lot of mental health research. And so that's a little bit more about me. Our mission at Do More Ag is to cultivate a culture of mental well-being in Canadian farming communities and with Canadian farming communities. Of all of those words, the two that really resonate the most with me are culture and community. So one of the things that we know that happens when someone in a rural community experiences a mental health crisis or some mental health adversity, an injury, burnout, whatever it is that we do have a socialized cultural tendency to give them space, right? To step back, to give them space. And it's so opposite of what we do when someone has a physical injury or physical diagnosis, right? You know, they've been in an accident, they've had a heart attack, there's a cancer diagnosis. We step towards them and wrap ourselves around them and help. And so that's the difference. And when I talk about culture in farming communities, that's the piece that Do More Ag works on. And so, and we work on it in a whole bunch of different ways with partners right across Canada at the national level and at the provincial level. It's important for Do More Ag to partner, especially when we come to mental health. What we know is is that there are clinical resources and clinical expertise that needs to be lifted up that we want to make sure that people know about and that they can access. Our job is to also hold up and build the community supports, because we know that community and clinical go together. So that's where we work. Our pillars are action, community, and resources. And again, our pillars really drive what we do and how we think about what we do and how we shape what we do. So what I'm going to do in this presentation is I'm going to cover a few of our programs and the way that we do outreach, and then I'm going to focus specifically in on our newest endeavor, which is a podcast, and tell you guys a little bit about a podcast that we've launched. So you can find us online. Do More is National Charitable Foundation based in Canada. I love partnering right across the world. What I find, of course, is that agriculture bears a lot of similarities all around the world, and I love to respect that. I love to hear your stories about what's happening, whether it's research. So I have a research background. That's another piece about me. I do have a PhD. It's not in psychology. I'm a rural historian by training, and so I've had lots and lots of books and publications, and so I'm really interested in how we tell stories and why we tell stories the way we do. And so that's one of the strengths that I bring to the Do More Agriculture Foundation. I think through how we tell the story of mental health and how we can tell it differently. And so that's part of what I do. One of our major pieces is thought leadership. So we host lots of learning and sharing events. We're in the public sphere as public speakers quite often. Media relations, I'm on the phone generally a few times a week doing interviews, and sometimes on television, sometimes just on radio, and sometimes just for print. So that thought leadership piece is really important to what we do, and centering it, again, working with colleagues who apply themselves more in the clinical side, and our job is to uplift the community side. So that when people are between their therapeutic and clinical things, or they've returned from therapeutic and clinical, or they're thinking whether or not they need therapeutic and clinical supports, they have a community of people that they feel comfortable and confident talking with. So that's what we do. We connect for mental health. I mentioned that it's important to us to collaborate right across Canada. So we know that there's no way that any one entity can deliver everything. It's absolutely not possible. And so that collaboration piece is really important to the work that we do. And so one of the things that we have are these QR code stickers, and it's for mental health support. So if anyone has a cell phone and can scan that particular QR code, we'll take you to our webpage that will take you to those crisis resources. So national call lines, provincial level call lines, and other much needed crisis resources. And it'll also just take you to our general website, and then there are more resources as well. We do think about what it looks like upstream, right? We can't always solve these issues, downstream after someone has identified and they're in trouble. We'd love to make sure that the conversation flows backward, upstream, and that we're also paying attention to what we do, why we do it, and how we do it, and how we can help at an earlier stage. One of the programs that we have, and we've got three major funders who are strongly with us to support this. It's with the group Together All, who many of you know and some of you already work with. And so Together All is an online space, and it's a peer-driven space. It's driven primarily by the people who join, talking to one another. And so what we did is that we worked with Together All to create one of their spaces within Together All is specifically for farmers. We call it Ag Talk here in Canada. However, we do know that there are other partners in the United States within the agricultural community who also have access to Together All. And so it's very likely that a farmer in the United States might very well also talk to a farmer from Canada and share and exchange some of their thoughts and ideas. And so that's something that we offer. It's online. It's completely anonymous. We do know that in rural communities, as you guys all know, there are higher levels of fear and shame when it comes to mental health. And so having a space that's anonymous where you can just go on and be yourself and share is really important. It's the third year of the Ag Talk program. It continues to grow and be shared, and so that's something that we're really proud to help and lead. Another thing that we do is that we go out right into rural communities. They can apply to us for some community fund funding. When a rural community says, you know what, mental health is important, and we want to have this conversation at the local level. We want to bring in our friends and neighbors, and we want to learn about this, and we want to talk about this together. Can you come in and help us facilitate that conversation? Now, this is something that we do. Our own program is called Talk, Ask, Listen, and we have both a 3 to 4 hour community version. I say 3 to 4 because it depends on how many stories people are sharing that on a given day, and how big the group is. We also have distilled it down into a 1 hour lightning version, which is also really, really helpful and accessible. And that's something that we've just done within the past year. And so we work with communities when they come to us and say, you know, we'd like to have a mental health conversation, and we come and work with them to build a Talk, Ask, Listen. One of the things you should know is that we don't see a Talk, Ask, Listen as the only thing that a community brings in. We want to set the stage so that they are also thinking through their own journey as a community or as an individual. What more training is out there that maybe they should think about and access and build their own skill set. And so we see Talk, Ask, Listen as very much an opening piece to that conversation, and inviting people on that journey to increase their knowledge and their courage and their confidence when it comes to mental health. Another program that we have is called Ag Culture, and that is where we work with. So we offer it once a month. It's online. It's entirely free, and one of our clinical facilitators leads this, and it helps people who have a clinical background. So whether you're a therapist, a mental health nurse, a social worker, a clinician, even a veterinarian, whatever it is, and you perhaps would like to increase your knowledge about agriculture and the stresses and pressures in agriculture, you can take this training. It is geared specifically towards those who may have a clinical connection to farmers. It helps people to understand the kinds of pressures that farmers are under, or that entire agriculture is under, so that they can create a better clinical connection and a therapeutic connection with their clients. And so that's something that's really, really important. As I said, we offer it once a month. They are online. We have had people from the United States join us, and you're welcome to do so. It is geared towards Canadian clients. And so you'll find that a lot of the conversation, because of course, Canadian healthcare is different than American healthcare. So you're not going to find a whole lot of conversation around insurance in a Canadian context, but nonetheless, we have had people from the US join, and we're happy to do so. We also have received calls and requests from different groups across the United States to say that they would also like to do this kind of training, or that they are doing this kind of training with clinicians, and just wanted to, you know, collaborate and share some thoughts and ideas around what that looks like and how we can do it well, and how we can share our insights together. Another tool that we have created, and this is very much a tool, is Hey, Are You Okay? And it's a self-assessment, a self-check-in tool. It can be found online. It is actually separate from our main website. It is the Hey, Are You Okay? website. And the reason for that is that the primary focus of that is the self-check-in tool. So this is a space where people who work in agriculture can think about how they're doing, how they're thinking, how they're feeling. It's a series of questions. There's no right or wrong answers. It just, you know, as when they get to the end of the tool, it allows them to, it gives them sort of a bit of feedback, and, you know, kind of gives them a bit of a gauge about how well they're doing, and maybe some optional steps for next steps for them to think through levels of support. This particular project was the recipient of a Canadian Producer Mental Wellbeing Grant award in 2025. We just received it in the fall to do some renovations. And so we've been working with a rural clinician who's really, really good in this space to make sure that the questions are good. There's a second tool that colleagues of ours have, and we want to blend the two tools together. And so we've been doing work to do that. And so we're looking forward to having those two tools blended within the next probably 6 to 8 weeks, and then doing a bit of a pilot study to just check and make sure that the tool is hitting where we would like it to hit. We also know that clinicians sometimes use check-in tools as a way to gauge how the person that they're working with is feeling and doing. And so those who are clinicians who work with farmers might also like this tool because it uses very plain language and it is geared towards people within farming communities and standing right at the farm gate. And so you're welcome to use this tool. It's online, it's free. So please feel free to do so. Now I'm going to talk about the big reason why I'm here today, which is to share with you a new podcast that the Do More Agriculture Foundation launched. We launched it in October, and we have just dropped episode 6. So this is the most recent art and the most recent episode. I want to spend a moment talking about the purpose behind this podcast. So what we did prior to launching the podcast is that we did an overview of what kind of mental health podcasts are available out there. And what we found is that there are 2 major streams of podcasts. So the first major stream of mental health podcasts, even including those in mental health and agriculture, is that they tend to talk to people who are clinicians and experts. So whether it's, clinicians, psychologists, yoga instructors, equine therapists, forest nature therapists, anyone who has a specialty in that sort of rural agricultural space or has some really good insight. They tend to primarily to be on that more clinical side and what an individual can do or consider doing to help our own individual mental health. Those are excellent podcasts. We love them. We share them. We listen to them. That's fantastic. That isn't the kind of podcast we chose to do. The second sort of kind of podcast that we found out there it is the kind where they interview people who have lived experience, whether it's lived experience of a particular illness, whether it's bipolar disorder, anxiety, burnout, whatever it is that some PTSD, something that someone has gone through. And those lived experience stories are incredibly valuable. And again, same thing. We love them. We listen to them. We learn from them. That also wasn't the kind that we wanted to do because we found in both of those cases, they were geared more towards an individual, either wanting to feel less alone, right? Knowing that there's someone else out there who has something that's the same, or they were looking for something to help themselves. And we decided to launch a podcast that's in this third stream, what we call, and that is what can communities do? How can communities actively be part of this conversation? And how can we inspire communities? And how can we celebrate what they're doing for mental health? So to identify and interview and then share and celebrate those stories. So our most recent episode, which just dropped this past weekend, I actually interviewed Kendall White, and she's from Australia, and she lost a brother to suicide. And one of the weird and fun things that her brother had done, his name is Braden, is that they were cleaning out a shop and they found a whole bunch of blue paint. And he and his friend went out, they found a dead tree sort of on the back 40 in their farm, their sheep farm in rural Australia, and they painted the tree blue. And this was just a prank, just absolutely for fun. And they wanted to see how long it took before their dad noticed. And then what happened is that after he died by suicide, this story got shared at his funeral. And then another friend went out and in honor painted a dead tree blue, and then another, and then another. And first it became this activity of painting the tree blue, and then since then it has grown. And so there are blue trees, replicas of real blue trees, dead blue trees. There are all kinds of other things that have been painted blue and developed by communities right across Australia. And so it's grown into the Blue Tree Project, where people will be driving by and they'll be like, why is that tree blue? And then it becomes an opportunity for a conversation about mental health. And so that's one of the stories that we showcase, and there are others. But the podcast is moving beyond awareness into inspiration and action. And it's about what can you do in your community to make a statement about the importance of mental health and make a difference. And so those are the kinds of stories that we're looking for. And that's why we wanted to share that today with you. First of all, please feel free to share this podcast, particularly if you live in, a rural or small town community and you're like, hey, this story, might really work. And so we have 6 episodes so far. Can you guys hear her? Okay, sorry. I think I forgot to share the sound, but that's okay. So episode 4, I'll just tell you about so I told you about the Blue Tree Project. Episode 4 is called Everybody Needs a Pickup Man. And I interviewed the Cheyenne Frontier Days lead, Tom, and this is Morgan Lemon, and she's a young woman here in Canada who runs her little rural rodeo or is heavily involved in her rural ag society and her rural rodeo space. And so they brought the idea of the Yellow Feather campaign, everyone needs a pickup man, to their rural rodeo on purpose because Morgan lost a brother to suicide. And so this became a very personal story for her. She happened to go with a group of friends to Cheyenne and saw the rodeo there and saw everybody walking around wearing yellow feathers in their hat. And she's like, what is going on? And this was after her brother died by suicide. And what's going on? It hit her so hard. It was such a huge story for her that people were walking around signaling to one another that they welcomed the story. And so Cheyenne Frontier Days has this sort of overarching campaign that they run during the rodeo every year about how everybody needs a pickup man. And so we wanted to, so that's an example again of something that communities can do to sort of shine a light on mental health. And same here. So maybe I should go a little bit further so you can not see me, but see. So this interview was about the men's shed movement. So the men's shed movement is international, another movement that started in Australia. They're way ahead on a lot of these things, just to say. And men's sheds are where guys get together and they what they do in their shed is entirely up to them. Sometimes they do physical projects, they've got a bunch of power tools and maybe they make library boxes or they make, garden boxes for their or they fix stuff around their community. There's a men's shed that's a group of seniors. They're like, yeah, we can't hold power tools anymore. We're going to get together once a week and we're going to do puzzles. But we're going to sit shoulder to shoulder with a project in front of us and we're going to talk. So the Men's Shed program, we know when we work in rural communities that male suicide is 3 times as high as women's suicide. That's the rate in Canada. We also note men are high at risk. And so finding a way, and men in that 50 and up age group are amongst the highest risk. And so shoulder to shoulder sort of addresses a lot of these things. It's not that it's specifically about mental health, but I interviewed 3 different guys who are involved in men's shed projects across Canada, and they talked about how that shoulder to shoulder piece, they're not sitting in front of each other having a clinical conversation. They're just sitting beside each other and everyone's mental health and physical health improves, from that. So, and Men's Shed's done a lot of research on the mental and physical impact, mental health and physical health impact of their Men's Shed movement. So that's another one that we did. There's a really fun piece. So remember how I said that it's important that how we tell stories about mental health matters. And what I know is that oftentimes when we tell the story of mental health, it tends to be a pretty bleak story, right? So we talk about higher suicide statistics. We talk about higher rates of domestic violence, substance abuse. There's so many things happening in rural communities. There's higher levels of shame and fear. People are less likely to go get help for their mental health. And we tend to throw a lot of statistics, which, vary a little bit from country to country and certainly within a country as well. But still, we tend to tell a mental health story from the perspective of a lot of negative and what I call scare statistics, right? Because we want people to know that it's more widespread and more common than maybe what they think, that they're not alone, that there's help out there and there are resources developed. What I know, though, is that I don't want people to get scared off from farming. I don't want people to think that, oh my gosh, I can't go farm because that will be bad for my mental health, right? And I recognize that that's a simplification. But so one of the things that we've done is that as part of this sort of recognition on our part is that we've got some research projects on the go that specifically look at strength, right? So what are the things that you do within your farm situation that bring you strength, that build you up, that you're proud of? And so we want to make sure that we're also taking a look at that and not just looking at the things that make you stressed, right? So that we're bringing a bit more balance. And we thought that we'd bring that right into the podcast. And so what we've done is that we've created a little segment, usually happens at the end of the podcast. It's called Fun on the Farm. And I invite anyone who lives, in farming and rural spaces to whip out their phone, open up their voice notes, and tell me a little story about something that they've done on their farm, just for fun, or that gives them a lot of pride, or that they do just for the hell of it. So I've had people tell me about, one guy developed a 4-hole golf course, right? Another person's got walking trails all over their farm that they use. My most recent one that dropped with our most recent podcast, they actually do a newsletter that shares about what's happening on their farm, and they share that newsletter quite broadly. The picture that you see here is from my own farm. This is a walking labyrinth that I created on a piece of our farmland that we no longer farm because our equipment's too big. I can't get into this particular little corner anymore. And so I went out into those fields where I have a whole lot of rock piles, and I took my quad and with the box on the back, and I picked rocks from all of our rock piles, and I mowed this space, and I made a walking labyrinth on my farm. And so I use this as a picture of things that we do on our farm that serve no particular farming purpose, but we do them for fun because they're our space and they're things that we can do. And so so we've integrated that as part of the podcast. And so that's really why I'm here today, is to tell you about it, welcome any stories that you might have. The stories do not have to come from Canadian communities. They can come. So if you know a story from a rural community of something that they've done or that they're working on, that contributes to good mental health and does have a mental health theme, then please reach out and tell me about it. I'd love to hear about it. Or if you know somebody who's built something really cool on their farm. And I don't care what maybe they clean off their dugout, to go ice skating in the winter. Maybe they've got cross-country ski trails. Maybe they've got a downhill, a coulee that they go downhill skiing. Sorry, I'm thinking winter. This is all Canadian examples. The golfing example, there you go. Maybe somebody has a little farm museum, a whole row of farm tractors that they've, got. Maybe they do a pumpkin patch or a corn maze that they invite all the neighbors to come and use. Maybe they have a sideline in chainsaw carving, or they rebuild old cars, or they've got a pottery business on the side. It doesn't matter. But if somebody has a story of something fun that they do within their space that they'd like to share, I'd like to hear about that as well. And as I'm going to stop because I'm all done, and I will put into the chat links to our website and to Hey, Are We Okay? And I'd love to hear any questions that you might have for me.
Yeah. I'm ahead of you on that, Merle. I went ahead and put them in there as you were talking.
Excellent. You're the
they could
best.
Just go to them.
Thank you.
So, of course, in the chat, we have lots of love this, love this, love this. Is there anybody who would like to unmute, or if you can't unmute, go ahead and put your question in the chat. So Dr. Massie will be available for any questions for the next few minutes. We had a humorous, I like this labyrinth better than the horror corn mazes.
Yeah. I've been through the horror mazes. Yeah, those are fun things too, right? There's one about an hour away from us where they do it every year. Yeah.
I have a question for Merle. I love your area of specialty, storytelling, rural stories. Just wondering, because I'm really interested in this aspect of communication. I'm actually reading Improving Your Storytelling. But do you have any other helpful resources or links that if we're looking to kind of build that skill within our own organizations, where we could go?
I don't yet at the Do More Agriculture Foundation. So I've been on board here at Do More for about 14 months. I do know that one of the reasons, so we are board led, and I do know that one of the reasons why the board brought me on is because of my background in storytelling. I pay attention to how we tell stories and why we tell stories the way we do, because it matters, right? So which is sort of what I just outlined. When we tell stories of mental health, always from the negative, what's the outcome that we're hoping for? Well, usually it's more funding to support mental health crisis stuff, right? And I get that. I also just want to make sure that that's not the only story that we're telling, right? So the problem with the single story isn't that it's incorrect, it's that it's incomplete. And so for me as a storyteller, so I also have lots of storytelling books. I'm pay attention to it. Those have not yet been incorporated to anything that we do at Do More Ag. However, I'm happy to talk about that and engage with anyone because I can bring my sort of professional training to that. It isn't something that Do More has done a lot with. One of the things that's on my project list to do, though, is to write a book, not just me, but to welcome people who have these kinds of stories, and probably more those individual level stories, and help them shape their story, right? Because those really matter. So a friend of mine in Canada, his name is Jerry Friesen, and he wrote this book called The Recovering Farmer. And so Jerry has he had a whole series of blogs that he ran for a lot of years. Jerry suffers from anxiety and depression, and so he collated up a lot of these blog posts and put them together into a book. And we share his book on a regular basis. And I've got my copy's got like notes in the margins and everything else because Jerry has done such a good job, because we know that sharing your story matters. It helps people. And so there's two pieces to sharing. There's the talk piece and there's the listen piece. And so we work on both aspects of those with our Talk, Ask, Listen. You remember that community workshop? We encourage and empower people in communities to tell their stories and to listen when someone else is telling their story.
Oh, great. Yeah, you're kind of taking that aspect of StoryCorps. Yeah, which I love. I just, so
yeah. Oh, it's great stuff.
Great tool. Great tool.
So Merle, your course that you just talked about, your Talk, Ask, Listen, who is that for? Who is that offered to?
Rural communities. And so for the most part, and businesses. So we can also offer it and have taken, agronomists, agricultural lenders, so if a larger, seed distributors, if a larger business comes to us and says, okay, like, so many people are scared of, like, people are so afraid to talk about mental health, right? Or to ask, and like, oh, I'm scared that I'll say the wrong thing. I don't know how many times a week I hear people tell me that, right? And so increasing all of our courage and confidence in this space is a major, major step to breaking down that shame and fear that stops people from getting help.
And on your podcast, what kind of guests are you looking for? Because I'm wondering if anybody in our audience would be able to help you. I know you're always searching for guests. Yeah. Is there something specific that you're looking for?
Yeah, so we are looking specifically at rural communities, ideally, and the initiative doesn't, like, it can be kids initiatives, youth initiatives, all the way up to seniors. That part doesn't. So age and geography don't really matter. I do want to make sure that it isn't just you need to build, a community hall in your community so that people get together because that's better for your mental health. That's not it. It does need to have a specific mental health theme somewhere within it. So the first podcast was about a rural woman who created a musical theater production called I Am Enough. And she performed it in her own rural community, and the whole community wrapped itself around her, right? Like, there was all kinds of stuff related to mental health across the whole town, across the whole weekend, as in between her performances. So that was one podcast episode. Another episode was on the Three Oaks cabin in Ontario. So this is a farm family that built a cabin that is specifically for farmers and first responders. If they're not feeling well and they've got things going on and they just need a space to get away and process, they can go to Three Oaks cabin and stay there for free.
Wow.
Yeah. So these sorts of things. So I focused in on how the community wrapped themselves around them to build this cabin, right? Because it was very much a community effort. So these are some of the examples of the stories that we've chosen so far. And so, like, we do want rural, mental health theme of some kind running through it. These are important. After that, though, like I'm ready to listen. I'm not so much interested in if you've created something like a foundation or a society. I'm not opposed to that, but I would need to make sure that that it sort of fits within that rural and mental health mandate. But and the community piece. So not what an individual has done, but how the community has come together or lifted up and supported that. So those are the three things that we're looking for, and we're open to any kind of stories that come to mind for you.
Excellent. All right. You hear that, audience? If you think you have something that would benefit Merle's audience, we will get you her contact information sent out in the email. But Merle, if you want to put that in the chat, just in case anybody needs it now, that would be great. And then we will have to move to the next speaker. But if you guys have any questions for Dr. Massie, go ahead and I think you're going to be able to stay on for a couple of minutes, right?
I'm here.
Okay. Excellent. You guys can message her privately in the chat. So we thank you so much. You're a very engaging speaker. I just wanted to look at your face the whole time because you're so animated. I like it. I like it. Okay, we are going to move forward with everybody here knows Dr. Tara. She is such a joy for our AgriSafe team, and she has so much to share and has helped us out so many times. So today we are going to go ahead and let her share about the AgriStress directory. So that's something that is fairly new, and we want to get that out to everyone. This is a wonderful resource. So Dr. Tara, we'll let you go ahead and take it away.
Great. Carrie, can you see my screen?
It looks great.
Fantastic. So really glad to be here today. I had no internet this morning, so I have my colleague Laura Siegel as a backup in case something goes down. I was on this last month. I think we had someone that wasn't able to come, and so I had something new to share. So I don't think you'll see me after today for several of the mental health innovation exchanges, but we've had this slated now for a while to share with you about the AgriStress Provider Directory. So just a short story as to how this came about. The AgriStress Provider Directory came as a result of evaluations that we received from our training farm response. If you're not familiar with AgriSafe, we do the full breadth of ag safety and health, but we have quite a robust mental health portfolio. And back in 2022, we launched Farm Response, and that is quite a bit. As Merle was mentioning, our training also is for clinicians. It's about 3.5 continuing ed credits, so about 3.5 hours. It's on demand. We do have a lot of different CEs that are associated with that to try to have touch points with medical, nursing, APA, psychiatric, American Psychiatric Association credits, because we wanted to dangle that carrot to bring people in. And the first initial data that we looked at that training was about 500 learners when we first started after that first year. And some of the responses we got, they loved the training. They thought it was very helpful, very unique. I think mental health providers are always looking for something kind of outside the box, and this sort of fit the bill. But they said, how do we connect? How do we connect to this community? And this was early on. So the AgriStress Provider Directory concept came about in probably late 2023. I was thinking about it. It was a bigger topic 2004, and then we had to get some funding in order to get this thing up and launched. We do have generous funding support from Farm Credit and CoBank, as you see. And so what we have done in order for the AgriStress Provider Directory is strictly for mental health professionals. So someone that can provide counseling, therapy, coaching of some sort. As Merle was mentioning, there are a lot of people that have different modalities. So we certainly are open to those if that individual is a professional. And anyone that has taken Farm Response and completed it, we provide an invitation for them to join this directory for free. Now, that's really important because if you look at other directories that other people might use, I'm not saying they're not bad, but many times mental health professionals pay a fee to be on those directories. So this is really a community of behavioral health providers that really feel called to serve this community. This is completely voluntary. They do this on their own with our invitation once they've completed Farm Response. I'm happy to say that we have currently 132 farm response trained behavioral health providers on the directory covering 48 states. I would gather our behavioral health coordinator, Olivia Bury, has been out a few weeks with some health issues. And I probably have about 5 more waiting in the wings, to get that switch turned on. So these providers provide a range of services, and you can filter for what you're looking for, whether it's marriage counseling, counseling for children, if you want telehealth, if they accept insurances. We are looking to make that even more specific to the types of insurance that they accept to try to help you with that filtering. So this is a public-facing directory, meaning you can come to our website and you can search by zip code, by city, by state, and find someone that maybe serves that area. The reason there's so many states with only 132 providers is because many of these mental health providers have multi-state compacts. And so they are able to provide telehealth services across many different states. Many of psychologists have the ability to do that. And we have quite a few that are on there. So the other aspect that the AgriStress Provider Directory has been helpful is with our AgriStress helpline. So the AgriStress helpline, as Carrie mentioned, is a 24/7 suicide crisis / ag and mental health resource line for people working in agriculture of all sectors. We don't limit this just to row crop and ranching. We welcome people from the logging industry, from the fishing industry, if they want to find someone that understands the occupation of ag and what those specific stressors are that exist in agriculture. So in addition to that public facing, our helpline also, if a caller says, I would like to connect with somebody, but I want someone that understands what I do, because having culturally competent or engaging conversations that doesn't distance someone, if you have someone that works in agriculture and you suggest they take a vacation or time off, they're going to turn a deaf ear. And so we really feel like Farm Response brings up all those aspects and gives creative ways for behavioral health providers to engage in those conversations, certainly using their own skill sets, their own training to provide different types and different levels of care for them. Just to show you, I didn't mean to stop sharing. I wanted to actually take that down. So let me take this down. I want to show you where you can find this on our website. Okay, share. So here is AgriSafe's website. And if you were to come here and go under current projects and toggle to behavioral health, these are all of the different types of mental health trainings, programmings, or initiatives that we have. And you can come to the AgriStress Provider Directory. And this is where you can do your search. You have contacts about us. We have some additional links on visiting the Health Hub. We know that this directory is being used. I see the AgriStress helpline resources that are given out, and I see the AgriStress Provider Directory pop up as a resource that has been shared with individuals. In addition to that, we now, because we are doing a formal launch of this, more of a national launch, because we feel like we have really good coverage, we have some media pieces that we want to encourage you to perhaps share with your audiences and on your social media. So just to toggle through a few of these are some things that you can use. And Laura, please pipe up, because she was the one that developed these. And so she could tell you, what some of them are JPEGs. We do have a printable handout. These can be used in your social media. And we have different types of some of these items. Here's another one here with some nice little short, concise taglines. And then Laura will put some of the links for those. We are looking to build this out into a toolkit so that an organization or commodity group can come in, grab the toolkit, and just use it in their social media promotions. So you see some nice photos. The link, we tried to keep it really simple. We didn't want to, burden it with a lot of words. and try to get a little bit of difference. So you can refresh those posts if you like, or put them in your newsletter to share. If you would like to talk to AgriSafe about the directory, if you say have a newsletter and you want us to provide a write-up, or you just want to interview us about what's it about, please reach out to us to do that. And as a little bit of a surprise, I didn't know I was going to do this today. That sounds very secretive, but we just wanted to make sure we felt like we had it in a good place. I would like to debut a video that we have actually had in production for well over a year now on addressing mental health language. I do appreciate what Merle said. We don't want people to be afraid about having conversations, but having done this now as much as I have, you do still hear language being used in communities and even with health professionals that really might not engage someone to want to seek help. And in fact, sometimes that can create a barrier. So we partnered with Texas Department of Ag and developed this little doodly video. We do have a couple more tweaks on it. I will say that Olivia Bury, our behavioral health coordinator, was the one that wrote the script. She also is providing the narration for this. And when we started this, she was still a provisional licensed counselor. She is now a fully licensed counselor and has been practicing at that level for well over a year. So we do need to make an edit on that. So I would like now to share this video. I do want to say it's a little bit soft in the volume. So if you can hear it, great. If you can't hear it at all, please let Carrie know. But we know that we need to work a little bit on this volume. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. And Carrie, please stop me if this is not working.
Can you make the video full screen, Tara?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I probably should have had you sharing this, Laura. All right, here we go.
Hi, my name's Olivia Bury. I'm AgriSafe's Behavioral Health Coordinator, and I'm also a provisional licensed counselor. Language is crucial when talking about suicide because it shapes perceptions, influences attitudes, and can either perpetuate stigma or promote understanding and compassion. Here are some key reasons why careful language matters. Terms like committed suicide can imply criminality or immortality, reinforcing negative stereotypes. Using more neutral language like died by suicide focuses on the person and the tragedy, helping to reduce judgment and stigma. Another example of insensitive language when talking about suicide would be statements like successful or unsuccessful suicide, or completed and failed suicide. This implies that the death is an accomplishment or a positive outcome. Instead, use phrases like died by suicide, survived a suicide attempt, or fatal suicide attempt. What does the term lethal means refer to? The term lethal means refers to a suicide method such as firearms, medications, or any other self-harming methods. Using the term lethal means helps maintain a focus on the importance of restricting access to potentially lethal methods without adding negative connotations. Using the word weapon when talking about firearms as a means of suicide can provoke an image of violence and aggression, which may contribute to further stigmatizing those who experience suicidal thoughts. Thoughtful language encourages empathy rather than blame. Describing suicide as a result of overwhelming mental health struggles shifts the conversation towards understanding and support. Statements like, just a cry for help, or suicide is selfish, that can minimize the seriousness of someone's distress and ignores the psychological pain that drives a person to consider suicide. Instead, try offering empathy and acknowledging that person's deep pain. For those experiencing suicidal thoughts or who have lost someone to suicide, language can either validate their feelings or contribute to their sense of isolation. Non-judgmental terms can create a sense of safety and belonging. Refrain from describing someone as suicidal because it can reduce their identity to a single characteristic, rather than acknowledging the range of emotions and negative experiences they are feeling and going through. Use phrases like, Olivia is experiencing suicidal thoughts. This type of verbiage also applies when talking about mental health. Instead of saying, Olivia is mentally ill, or Olivia is bipolar, say, Olivia has a mental health condition, or Olivia is experiencing mental health challenges. Use person-first language to help highlight the individual without defining them by their condition. Our goal is we want to honor somebody's lived experiences in a kind and compassionate way. For survivors of suicide attempts or those affected by suicide loss, respectful language shows sensitivity and helps build trust, allowing for more open and healing conversations.
Okay.
Wish you could advance your career without interrupting it? eCornell offers flexible online certificate programs.
Okay. I'm going to unshare and share hello, Laura. I'm going to stop sharing.
Yeah.
Sorry. Too much going on. We are working to get this video translated into Spanish. Vanessa Martinez, part of our health communications team, is going to be doing that. She's going to be looking at those photos, make sure they're culturally appropriate. We know we need to do that as well. We hope to be debuting that video when we are at the National Farm Workers Center for Health conference that's going to be in New Orleans coming up. Oh, geez, when is it, Laura? I think it's in, when is that conference?
Which conference? Sorry.
The one in New Orleans, the National Farm Worker Center for Health.
That is in April.
In April.
Early
Yes.
April.
Yes. So where could you find this? We're going to make this available to you, anyone to use if you want to use it. We're going to have it listed on one of our pages. I'm going to have an article coming out in our March newsletter about language matters, and it's going to be linked to that as well. Interesting, the reason this came about is we were working with some high school youth. They wanted to do projects on agricultural mental health, and we just started noticing that some of those language that they were using, they could use some tutorials or a little knowledge update. That was the original reason we started working on this. But as I said before, this is helpful to all of us. I've been a nurse now for almost 40 years, and our language patterns are ingrained. And anytime I even do a mental health training, I try to start by saying, we all do the best we can with language. We understand that there are automatic phrases that we use. I just want to say that I'm going to try to use the language best I could. If I slip up, I give you permission to call me out or remind me that I am using antiquated or not language that is not helpful to an individual that has either lost someone to suicide or someone who has died by suicide. So I think when we can be transparent with people that we train and teach and be honest, we open that conversation in the dialogue so that we're a little bit more open to improve ourselves and also share that knowledge with our communities. So I'll take any questions that you may have from the audience, and I would love your feedback. We haven't done like the official launch. The official launch is going to be on the newsletter. So if you have any feedback on the video, I would love to hear it.
I mimic everyone in the chat. That was amazing. I loved that video. We do have the link to the YouTube video in the chat. And just to confirm, they can now go ahead and use that and share it with anybody, right?
Well, they can. As I said before, when I opened it up, I was like, wow, we started this so long ago. Now Olivia's credentials have changed. So we need to change that. And we need to get that done because the Spanish version is going to build off of the dialogue that is there. And I have a couple more technical things I think I might like to do to make it a little bit more easy on the eye. The content will be exactly the same. Nothing is going to change. And like I said, we're going to have it linked to our newsletter. So if you don't get our newsletter, do that. I also had my email address in the chat. If you want a copy of that or a link to that, also Laura is our health communications. We can send that to you for your use. We're actually considering using this even in our community QPR trainings, because this is one aspect of QPR that is really not addressed. And we feel like this could be helpful and help communities grow to be more helpful neighbors. Yeah, there's my email in the chat.
All right. Does anybody want to unmute and ask Tara any questions that you may have? Everybody in the chat says yes, language is a big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal. I'd love to hear what was your process to decide the script that you were going to use and the length of your script?
Right. Well, number one, we knew we wanted it. Originally it was designed for younger audience, but even adults now have a much shorter attention span. And I even felt like 3 minutes was a lot. Now, one downside is with things like Instagram, you really have to have really short videos, right? So we know that the utility of this may be more well designed for Facebook. And then the process, Olivia, is I so value new graduates because they have the most updated knowledge. They've studied in the most current textbooks. And so I asked her to please put together a script for this. She's compassionate, she's empathetic, and I knew that she could come up with a script that would be appropriate and that would connect with people. So that's how we decided who would come up with the script. It has gone through extensive review, has it not, Trish, on the Texas Department of Ag side. So because they funded this development, we put it through a pretty stringent process to make sure everybody was okay with it, and I think we're good. Yeah, unless that we have any other suggestions or any other things that you might suggest. Oh yeah, okay. Who said that? Yes, the hand drawing doodles. That is one of the technical things. After I watched it again today, I thought, you know what? I'm going to see if we can take the hand away from drawing the pictures. I don't mind it so much writing the words because I think that's kind of fun. But yes, we're going to see if we can take the hand away, putting on the pictures. Thank you for that.
All feedback is welcome. We like
That's
everything.
right. That's right. We got to work together.
Excellent. So if you are on our newsletter, when we do update that video, I'm sure it will be sent out in that newsletter. So if you don't want to miss it, make sure to go to the AgriSafeNetwork.org and sign up for our newsletter.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Carrie. And thank you, Merle.
Right.
It's been an honor being on here with you.
Yeah, always, 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 Tara. All right, everyone, that'll wrap it up for today. We're going to see you that first Wednesday in April with, of course, 2 wonderful speakers. We'll see you then.
Thank you so much. It was great to be here.
Thanks, Merle.